like, no, but here's how you fix it. Like in terms of what's difficult, I would say time. That's been the most challenging thing for me. So now that that's easing up, um, I guess second to that, maybe uh, getting rid of the fear.
And you're getting customers. So
Yeah,
how is that happening? Is that
all
people
word of mouth.
referring you? It's word of mouth.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all word of mouth. I haven't been doing any like marketing promotion at all because I had a waiting list. So I didn't want anytime someone, if I even make mention, I'm like, everyone's like, oh yeah, I need a website too, and I'm like cringing because I couldn't handle it. But
Mhm.
now I feel like that won't be a challenge anymore.
Okay. Well, look, I very much empathize with where you're at. It just takes me to my very beginning days. Even actually the specific issue of like, yo, do I do unemployment or not? I face
Hmm.
that same exact thing,
Yeah.
and I ended up opting for unemployment, and because like I had some kind of I guess it was ego or shame or whatever,
Hmm.
but I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do it. But I'm an entrepreneur, blah, blah. But look, I got fucking fired from my job. You got laid off from your job, and the reality of the social nets that are in place. And this is, I took great comfort in thinking about it this way: is like this is what these nets are made for.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they're made for when you it just life puts you in this kind of position, and we both, I'm sure, have seen people take advantage of the system, and that was a line that I drew for myself,
Hmm.
that I didn't want to do that, but I was okay with supplementing this grind that I was getting ready to go on with, unemployment income. And I remember I took it for 6 months, and after 6 months, you'll get a form that says, "Hey, do you want to continue?" And by that point, thankfully, I was already in a place where I was making decent money from the business. Um,
Hmm.
and it doesn't always work out that way. And if I wasn't at that point, I would have taken it for another 6 months, to be honest. But
Right.
I was at that point where I was like, no, I feel like I'm okay here. I couldn't morally do it,
Right.
and extend, because then I would have just been in a place where I was like, I'm gaming the system,
Right.
which I know people do, but that's not what I wanted for myself. So I'm 100% supportive of, hey, take what's available for you, in addition to the whatever standard unemployment you'll get. As I'm sure there's an additional $600 weekly that you'll get on top
I heard about that.
through
Yeah.
through July, through July or whatever, per
Right.
week. And my brother happens to be on unemployment at the moment. He was employed. He lives in Brooklyn. He was employed. He was getting ready to be employed by the Food Network, and the networks got shut down, whatever. And he's been on it, and it's been a very big help for him. And it's been a yeah, it's been a tangible, practical, really big help. And I think that you deserve it. You not only do you qualify for it, but you deserve it. And also it will help you. Even once the additional $600 runs out,
Hmm.
whatever additional income you get, it's going to be helpful. So I personally would say, hey, put all pride to the side, take it for what it's worth, and give it an honest run, and then reevaluate when you get to the point when you'll get the letter like, hey, are you going to re-up or not? So
Yeah.
that's my personal take on that. Now,
Okay.
with respects to like the actual the business, um, okay, so you are on the ground stages, and this stage is not going to be so much about scale and optimization, all this other stuff, as much as it is going to be about, hey, offering the most concrete, practical, tangible service that you can and getting dollars in exchange. And right now, I think you're right to land on the conclusion that that's probably not going to be brand strategy, because when you get into brand strategy, it is a little bit more lucrative, that kind of service, and it is a higher ticket item. But it takes a little bit more time to permeate into the types of organizations that pay for that. And then also the types of organizations that pay for that are probably not paying for that right now.
Right. Yeah.
So I 100%, I like your intuition is spot on. Like, hey, let me um, offer web dev and offer this brand strategy for free. You can try and offer it as an upsell, but the reality of the nature of who you are as a person, I can already tell, is you're gonna be doing that anyway. In as you build the website for them, you're already asking for a mission statement and honing them.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
want you to see that as just an opportunity to hone your brand strategy skills, because
Okay.
it's almost like a Trojan horse. Like, you're getting in the door to brand strategy via web dev.
Hmm.
And you're just like how the past week for me, I've been doing a lot of these sessions across a lot of different industries and applications and industries and real estate and podcasts and VC and this, and
Hmm.
it's actually been great practice for me to
Right.
hone and put myself in your shoes right now. And so you're gonna have that same opportunity, except
Hmm.
you're gonna be paid for the web dev, and also you can see it as an by extension brand strategy. So for right now, me being you, the most important thing is to build a robust enough web dev business that you can meet your expenses, whatever that might be.
That's the challenge though, because I can only do so many websites within a certain period of time. And I feel like
Mhm,
the salary or the income that I'm looking for might not
mhm.
align there.
It's not going to. I'll just tell you that right now. It's harder. It's true. It's harder to build a self-employed income to match where you were making it in salary. The You'll get there,
Hmm.
but the reality of like the salary income is like that was coming from a budget. It was set there, and you're just being paid it. And like that's the reason you were scared to leave, is because your intuition was right. It's like it's a
Right.
little bit more difficult. So let me just you know you know I'll just put that out there right now, so that way you don't even have to wrestle with it. Like, it's gonna
Okay.
be harder with it, and I just want you to walk into this knowingly, right? The upside though, and the other side of it is, hey, I'm gonna be doing something that, this is you'll be in charge of your schedule. It sounded like you were miserable at your other job anyway.
Yeah.
And so for what you'll make less, like you'll make a little bit less in the first year, let's say. If you're lucky, you'll make more, but let's just take the base case scenario. Base case scenario is you make less, but your happiness is substantially higher, and that is an excellent place to start. And people really don't talk about that enough. And, they make it, I'm chasing $1 million. But for me, I was comfortable just replacing, I had a much lower income than you. So it was a little bit more within reach. I was making like maybe 30K. So for
Okay.
me, if I would have just replaced 30K with 30K of like, you know, income that it was completely, up to me and within my control, I would have been happy. But now, let's set our sights a little higher, right? Let's say, okay, we do want to replace this income, and you have this challenge of there's only so much you can take on. There's only a couple ways to go around it. It's one, you staff up, which means you make yourself the person that brings in the business, and you outsource some of the web dev work to someone who's comfortable taking on part-time work and helping you. Now we're getting into scaling, right? Which is, hey, it's like a proper organization. You as a CEO are bringing in the clients, and instead of turning away the 10 clients, you say, you know what? I got you guys, all of you guys, let's say. Boom,
Hmm.
boom, 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 boom. You bring them all on, you're making that revenue. Um, but then your net margin is not going to be as high because you have someone that is going to be helping you out. Um,
Right.
but the opposite of that, and the upside is you're able to take on more work. So you can take on more work at less margin, right? Or where you can start, which I would consider that only if you already know someone whom works like how you want them to, and you kind of
Hmm.
have that organic fit, and you have some ancillary support, might be
Right.
a good option. But if you don't have that, and I didn't have that when I was starting out, I was kind of just starting out as a lone wolf. What you can do is try and max out your volume. And you now have this time, so you're going to go through a period of time where you're just banging it out and you're just web deving all day.
Hmm.
And through doing that, and I like the fact that your price is a little bit lower right now, because what you're doing instinctively is you're using price as a lever and saying, hey, let me lower this price and I can get more volume.
Hmm.
What you're doing is, since all your business right now is word of mouth, every one client essentially leads you to another, let's say.
Yep, exactly.
At least 50% of the time, let's say.
Yep.
So by you increasing the amount of clients that are coming in the door anyway, you're increasing the amount of word of mouth potential that you have, right? So try and max out so that you can get a sense of how much your maximum monthly revenue really could be on your current price model, right? Because that was one of your questions that you had was like, hey, I don't know what my income can be.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
let's try and answer that question, right? Use your existing product, existing offering, and say, hey, let me max it out and try and get a 40, 50, 60-hour work week, however much you feel comfortable.
Right.
And then you'll get a sense of, okay, this is where I'm at if I'm maxed out at this price point. But now it's supply and demand. If you're getting that kind of demand and you really are just like fucking tweaked out and like you can't possibly squeeze anymore, that means it's time to raise your price.
Oh, raise the price.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I had that, for instance, with speaking for me. At some point, I was just charging $1,000, $500 at 100. I first was like you, using price as a lever to get myself out there, record myself, brand it, speaking about it, whatever, and just increasing like web dev, speaking begets more speaking. So I'm doing talks and people are like, yo, you were awesome. Come speak on my next thing.
Right.
And so by you lowering the friction to people buying the experience, in my case, speaking, in your case, web dev, you're sowing seeds that allows you to have the opportunity to do more speaking and more. And then I got to the point where I was maxed out and I was like, I can't possibly do this anymore for this price.
Right.
And I went up to the next level, which is $3,500 for me. I'm going to come here and you'll see your demand go down. Right. But because naturally you're operating in a certain price point. So when you increase your price point, naturally you will get customers to say, I thought you were I thought you were affordable, this and that. And then you say, respectfully, I'm just at that point where I gotta charge. I'm sorry, but the demand is so high that I need to make it worth the trade-off in time.
Right. Yeah.
So then boom, when you feel that the demand is really there, you might be there now based on what you're saying. But my first inclination would be max out where you currently are, not only just from the practical sense of you need the income, but also for the more strategic sense of being able to put a finger on what your monthly revenue could be. And if you stay max out there, your price goes up. The demand will come down, and then you're essentially building, you're building upon that clientele. You're building a new tier of clientele that is comfortable paying that price point for your services. And maybe the way you do that is just through pure web dev, or maybe you say, hey, it's web dev and brand strategy, and that's how you can kind of get to that higher tier. And then it's just the same thing all over again. You'll build there, word of mouth, and when your volume gets crazy, price goes up.
Right.
And so it'll be that kind of sliding scale.
That's helpful. Is there anything that you think I might be overlooking considering my skill set that I shared with you? Like in terms of other services that I might be able to offer that could tie in well?
Well, one thing that came to mind right off rip when I was hearing your background is it doesn't bring you joy. However, it happens to be a monetizable skill set to be able to consult organizations looking to do what you know how to do, which is, it sounds like, help them. Yeah, capital strategy. And I spoke to another type of like consultant that does that freelance, and there's money to be made in that. It's a higher ticket item. The only reason I would hesitate to even suggest it is because it sounds like it really doesn't bring you joy. But maybe you do some careful, honest inquiry around that, and maybe it was the organization that didn't bring you joy or whatever. I don't know where you are on that. If it's a firm line, you're like, fuck no, I never want to do that again, then it's just not worth your piece. However, that might be something down the road. I think it's definitely something that you build up towards. Like, I think practical service like web dev gets you in the door. then you have a client list. And you're 100% correct. Afterwards, once they're well on their way and you've already fulfilled your needs and whatever, you can reach back out and say, hey, how are you doing with your brand strategy, and offer it as a upsell, right? And so then you start getting into, remember that first layer was like a straight like web dev practical service. Then you build your offering on top of that and you start getting into brand strategy. And the reality is that brand strategy is a different need. It's related to web dev, but it's a different need. That's why I really like the idea of you just throwing it in like how you have been, building your chops, record the sessions if you can, like I'm doing now, because part of what you'll also have to do as a business owner is start communicating to the market at large, hey, I do this now.
Gotcha.
And so what I want you to understand is that people can't pick up what you don't put down.
Right. Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
If you don't physically, tangibly put something on a physical desk, no one can pick it up. Right. And so similarly, that's right.
Yeah.
So it worked. And so when I realized I wanted to develop, my income as a speaker, I started putting that down. Hey, and I started recording myself doing it and sharing it. And then people started picking it up. Yo, John does this.
Yep.
And so if it's brand strategy where you have your sights set on for the near future, find as many different opportunities as you can to record it or whatever, so that you can tangibly start seeding that in the marketplace.
Okay.
And, then you'll grow. So I like where you're at. I love it. You're at that scary moment. But you know what? The reality of fear is you got to meet fear with faith, right? Because when you're not scared, that's because you know the exact outcome, right? So a lack of fear is just, you have certainty, and you only have certainty when you're not stretching beyond what you know you can do. So in this moment of fear, that's because there's a lot of uncertainty. So you've mapped out as best you can, but then there's still that pocket of the unknown. And, stepping into that is scary. And I realized in my journey, like at some point I realized, wow, fear is a friend. Like it's not about not being scared. It's just about building up the bravery to do it scared.
Would you say that applies to public speaking as well? Like, have you always been this great of a public speaker, or was it something that you had to like work on?
It's definitely something I've gotten much better at. I was naturally, I think, a decent communicator. But hey, nothing gets you better at communicating, in my view, more than Toastmasters class. I've never done any of those things. What you do is you watch yourself played back, and you judge yourself so much when you see yourself. You're just like, oh, I can't believe I said it like that. Oh my God, I came off this way. I came off that way. And if you could build the bravery to just put it out anyway, and incorporate the feedback that you know is true, but you incorporate it for the next time.
Right.
And then the next time. And then this becomes an arbiter of truth almost, because you can see yourself objectively played back. Right. And then you have a benchmark by which you can get better. And that's why my communication now has gotten very nuanced, because I used to speak in very absolute terms. Yo, this is what it is. And I didn't like how it was being absorbed, because it was taken away from the message.
Right.
So then you develop the nuance. And I think I'm a big fan of you doing and recording your sessions when you do them with your clients. Okay. I think that I don't see any web dev person do that. And like that can really help you stand out as an edge. And that will be one of the tools that I think you can use to raise your price.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. I hope this is helpful. And I'm rooting for you. And I also want to make myself available. I don't really want it to be a transactional thing. This is more of like an experiment. So my email's out there. Hit me up at any time if you ever need a sounding board. And also learn from this experiment that I did. Once you build enough of a clientele or an audience, in my case, just through putting out content, which is why I love putting out content, you reduce the friction to get people to see you as an authority in something.
Right.
And then you can play with your offerings. I was driving one day and I had this idea. I pulled over on the side of the road, made the webpage go live on Squarespace.
Seriously?
Seriously. And dropped it. And I was like, I don't know if it's gonna work, and it worked. So
Wow.
it's now a product that I guess I offer, and I didn't know it.
Right.
So learn from that too, because I think that was a successful blueprint. First, build that bedrock of a clientele and of an audience, and then get creative with some of the things that you can offer, be a brand strategy or capital raising, whatever you want to do.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Will you share this recording?
Sure, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't
Awesome.
forget anything that you just said. Awesome. Thank you.
Love
This
it.
is super helpful. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Have a great day and a great weekend, and be safe and all that stuff.
Thanks.
It's crazy times. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
you too. All right. Bye.
Cheers.